Ya Ilahi, Ya Ilahi, Ya Ilahi, Ya Ilahi.
The cultivator determines whether you'll be successful or not in life. And that's why the cultivators. Who are the cultivators who can have an effect on the development of the youth in Islamic thought? I've named 3 of them, but I haven't told you who the last one is. Let's look at the first cultivator in Islam. The first cultivator of the heart of a youth who's developing. Who are they? The parents of the youth. Because without a shadow of doubt, arguably, the most important people in cultivating the heart of a youth are the parents. When parents have a great relationship with them, he says the heart of a youth is like an uncultivated piece of land. Whatever you throw on it, it accepts. Therefore, I try to mold your heart before it hardened by telling you about the examples of my life. The Quran is replete with examples of fathers who speak to their sons and fathers who speak to their daughters. Imam Sadiq used to say, the first right of your children in Islam is the right of dialogue. Write this down, please. The first right of the youth in Islam is the right of dialogue. What does this mean? This means that if there is dialogue which exists in the relationship between the parent and the child, then it's the parent who will cultivate the heart of the youth before anyone else does. Physiologically, I've just passed puberty. I want to discuss it with my dad. The question is my dad the type of person who will discuss such an issue with me? Physiologically, I feel aroused. I want a partner in my life. The question is my mother the type of person I can be open with? In Islam, the parents have to be the first cultivators of the heart of the youth. Without the parents having a relationship of dialogue with their sons or with their daughters, you'll find that that heart will be cultivated by somebody else. In the Quran, how many father-son and father-daughter relationships can you give me? Hands up. Give me an example of a father-son relationship in the Quran. Yes. Luqman al-Hakim, brilliant example. And you know what? You're a sincere human being, because I was dying for someone to say that. Luqman was black. It's ironic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala names the whole surah of the Quran after someone who was black. And yet you find in our communities we can be extremely racist. Yet a whole surah is named after somebody not because of his color, but because of his wisdom. And from verse 12 of the Quran until about verse 18, he speaks with his son where he tries to cultivate the heart of this young man before others do. The words that he gives his son highlight that the parents are the first to cultivate the heart of their sons and daughters. If they don't, somebody else will. For example, I remember once he's with his son. He says to him, son, let me give you some piece of advice. He said to him, what is it, Dad? He said, however much you'll try in life, not everybody's going to like you. And not everybody's going to be pleased with you. And there's going to be people out there who disagree with you. But never give up. Keep being yourself and you'll be successful. So he said to him, Dad, can you show me an example? Notice the cultivation that occurs through dialogue. This heart is being molded by a father towards his son. It's not just a man with a child. It's a matter of cultivation. You are responsible in Islam, when you're a parent, to cultivate the youth. He says to him, Dad, show me an example. What do you mean when you say parents are those who provide advice? Show me how this advice works. People don't like me. People won't accept me. How does this work? He said to him, son, I didn't say people won't like you. I said not everybody is necessarily going to accept what you say. So he said to him, how? He said, watch this. Me and you are going to walk together and there's a donkey with us. And when we walk together, I'm going to show you human beings. That whatever they do, sometimes they'll only look at the negative and not the positive. He said to him, okay, Dad, let's start walking. They start walking. All of a sudden, what happens? All of a sudden, Luqman tells his son, son, sit on the donkey and I'll walk. The son's on the donkey, Luqman's walking, someone walks past. He looks, he goes, look how arrogant Luqman's son is. He sits on the donkey while his dad's walking. I can't believe this. Then his dad says, wait, give it a few minutes. Now his dad sits on the donkey and Luqman, and the son walks. Someone walks past. What type of father is he? Sitting on a donkey while the young boy walks like that. Then he said, you know what? Let us both sit on the donkey. They both sat on the donkey, someone walked past. Look at those two, how horrible they are to that poor donkey. Then he said, let us both walk. Guidance. And that's why you find that even the Holy Prophet himself comes and he discusses that whole idea of cultivation through Luqman. Narrations which I'll come to in a minute. Luqman, for example, begins again with his son. In the Quran, Ya bunay, la tushrik billah, inna shirk la dhulmun azim. Oh my son, don't perform polytheism and putting partners to God. Because putting partners to God is the worst of acts, is the most oppressive of acts. Notice the first area he wants to cultivate in his son is the area of what? Is the area of understanding God. How many of us, hand on heart, had good conversations with our parents about God's existence? How many of us felt scared to say, where is God? Yet you find Luqman opens up a period of cultivation with this young man. And he begins to discuss with him God. And that's what AhlulBayt would always teach. That the first area you have as parents when you want to look after the youth, cultivate their hearts about understanding God's existence. Don't go into obedience to the parents. Don't go into the acts of worship. The first area, God's existence. Imam Sadiq, someone comes up to him one day. Examples which have been often narrated, but look at the way Imam deals with these atheists. Atheist comes to Imam Sadiq. He says to him, show me God. Imam Sadiq can either look at him and say, this young man, who's he to speak to me like that? Get out. Or he could look at him and say, I can cultivate his heart by engaging in dialogue. Imam Sadiq said, what do you say? He said, show me God. He said, no problem, look at the sun. He looked at the sun, he moved his eyes straight away. He said, why did you just move your eyes? He said, because the rays of light are blinding me. And he said, if you can't see the created, how do you expect to see the creator? Simple, but effective. The message got through. Another occasion, a person comes to Imam Sadiq, says to him, and it's a young man. Notice how the Imam recognizes, but the young, their heart is soft. Speak to them. He says to him, I don't believe God exists. Imam says to him, why? He said, because I have a question nobody can answer. He said, what is it? He said, if God exists, can he fit the whole universe into an egg without the egg getting bigger or the universe getting smaller? If God exists, can he fit the whole universe into an egg without the egg getting bigger or the universe getting smaller? Anyone know how to answer that question? Don't tell me because God can.